Welcome everyone to the fifth round of the FIDE World Cup 2025. This is the second classical game. On your screen is Arjun Erigaisi. He takes on Levon Aronian. The first game had ended in a draw. This is actually a very important clash. It could very well be that Levon comes without much ambition and draws the game, and there he is. Levon is here. He comes without much ambition, draws the game, and we go into tie breaks. But it could very well be that Levon comes with extremely high ambitions, and there you see Levon getting up, handshaking there, and both of them played each other so many times. And in fact, they have some kind of a little rivalry between them where they have exchanged wins against each other. Yeah, and so I was saying, like, if Levon could very well come with a lot of ambition and we would get a wonderful game, because it's always white who tries to push in such games. The players are ready, and a handshake again, a respectful sort of getting up from the chair from Levon, and opens the game with pawn to e4. Arjun can play the Sicilian if he wants to go all out, but I think it makes no sense to do that today. e5 is a much more logical move. Knight comes out to f3, attacking the pawn on e5. Knight to c6, defending the pawn. And then you go bishop to c4. The Italian is on the board, and Arjun brings his bishop to c5. Levon thinking a bit here, plays pawn to c3. He wants to build a strong center with d4, but Arjun brings his knight to f6, attacking the pawn on e4. d3 played very calmly, and now Arjun plays pawn to a5. Slightly offbeat move, but very logical. You know, in the Italian, the move orders keep on going back and forth. a5 stops the move b4, and pawn to d6 taken, opening up the bishop. And now rook e1 played, and black goes castles. The knight comes to d2 with the idea of knight f1, knight g3. Plays bishop to e6, offering a trade of bishops. Now you can take and give a doubled pawns, but many times the bishop goes to b5, then goes to a4 and reroutes itself to c2. The bishop comes back to a7. Now the knight has to move from e7 to g6 generally. So knight goes to f1. And let's see what Arjun plays here. He goes knight e7. And that's always a good move, because d4 you have knight g6 coming in. Levon goes d4. And generally you don't want to take on d4. I mean, keeping the pawn on e5 makes a lot of sense. And so Arjun thinks for a bit and plays knight to g6. Look at the clock timings. 1 hour 32 minutes for Arjun, 1 hour 27 minutes for Levon. And now Levon plays his knight to g3. So the e4 pawn is well guarded, the d4 pawn is well guarded. And pawn to c6, attacking the bishop here. The bishop comes back to f1. And somewhere now, you know, you can take and think about the d5 break. But not so soon. Arjun first plays the move bishop g4. And now if you play h3, I'll simply take, queen takes, and the d4 pawn is hanging. So he first defends it with bishop e3. And now Arjun takes. E takes d4. You can take back with the bishop, but also taking back with the pawn. Not a bad idea. So he takes back with the pawn. And now rook e8 with the idea of putting pressure on e4. He pushes his pawn to d5. And now e5 played here, attacking the knight on f6. And knight e8. You know, knight e4 is the most natural move here. However, black goes knight to e8. And now bishop e2. Levon kind of tries to break the pin. Maybe better was h3 forcing to trade. But bishop e2 tries to break the pin. And Arjun plays the best move in the position f6 to open up the f file. He takes on f6. And now knight takes f6 makes a lot of sense. So the rook has opened up. The d pawn is a bit weak. Knight can jump into e4. The other knight is looking at the f4 square. And now queen b3. Trying to put pressure here on b7. If you play queen d7, I can go knight e5, attacking the queen. And so Arjun first takes on f3, a good move. And bishop takes on f3. Queen d7 played, trying to defend the pawn on b7. And now rook a d1. The rook defends the pawn on d4. And Arjun goes h6. Maybe not the best move. Rook f7 with the idea of doubling was better. But with h6 you do weaken the light squares a bit. And I love Levon's next move. He's going bishop e2 to d3 to b1 and queen d3 and lining up on this diagonal. Arjun brings his rook to e8. And the position is slowly building up. Bishop comes to d3, attacking the knight. The knight can jump to h4. And it does. Knight to h4 played. And the knight is looking at these tender squares in the white camp. f3 played, stopping knight g4 ideas. But now this knight can go from h7 to g5 in the position. And that is exactly what Arjun does. A very good move by him. He's coming with his bishop, with his knight to the g5 square. Also, some ideas of rook e3, bishop takes d4 should not be underestimated. Bishop b1 played, trying to get the queen to this diagonal. And now the knight comes into g5. There could be potential sacrifices on f3 and g2 now. He goes queen c2 with the threat of a mate perhaps on h7. But g6 played, not the best move. In fact, Arjun could have taken and played rook f3. And after queen h7, king f8 or king f7, which could have been much better. And black is here putting so much pressure. But instead, he went g6, king h1, and now queen f7 is played. We are on move 27. Arjun has 40 minutes. Levon has 35. Queen goes to f2. And now bishop to b8, opening up the bishop on this long diagonal. You go knight to f1, hitting the knight on h4. And knight f5 played. The bishop comes to d2. And bishop c7, defending the pawn on a5. And now Levon plays his knight to e3 and he offers a draw. It's move 31. Levon has 18 minutes, Arjun has 31, and after 12 minutes of thought, he takes on e3 and declines Levon's draw offer. That's amazing spirit by Arjun. Goes king g7. He's like, I want to play here. I want to fight. That's the fighter Ajubai is. Queen f1, a big mistake. And now there's this beautiful tactic with bishop h2. So bishop h2, if king h2, there's rook e3. Rook e3 and queen f4 with a double attack that wins. But bishop h2, by the way, he misses it. He goes rook e6. I guess what Arjun did not see is that after bishop g5, there is this insane move. Bishop g3 takes, and when you save this bishop, I go queen f6 and queen h4 with the mating ideas. But rook e6, he goes bishop g1, and now Arjun plays rook e8. Black pieces definitely look quite free and for choice, but white still has some good chances here. For example, maybe queen d3, just rook d3, plays a3, and maybe this is not very useful, this move pawn to a3, because I mean it's not doing much in the position. h5 played by Arjun, very useful move, going h5, h4, h3. So queen f2 played to stop h4, and now queen to f4 with the bishop and the queen lined up. And Levon blunders big time with rook e1. I mean, rook e1 is possible, but there is an insane move, a very strong move. And look at Arjun's face. It lights up. He's ready with his move. And does he find it? He's going towards the knight. Can you find it? Yes, knight h3. What a move. If g takes h3, I simply take on e1, queen f3 is a checkmate. What a beautiful mate. And if you take on e6, I have knight takes f2 check, and you lose the queen. And look at Levon. He's just disgusted with his blunder. The main point being, if queen f1, there's knight g1. Queen g1, takes, and a mate on h2. So this is also something that he could have very well missed. Queen f1, and he resigns with a smile on his face, and he says, I absolutely forgot that after queen f1 there is knight takes g1. And what a big miss by Levon Aronian, giving Arjun Erigaisi the win and a path to the quarterfinals. Levon unfortunately is eliminated. It would have been so wonderful to see him also advance. He couldn't. But Arjun, the crowd favorite here in India, the current India #1, advances to the quarterfinals, the 6th round of the World Cup. And in the 6th round, in the quarterfinals, he faces a huge challenge in the form of Wei. This will not be easy, but also it wasn't at all easy facing against Levon Aronian. Arjun managed to play a good game of chess here. You know, he missed couple of tactics with bishop takes h2 or knight takes f3. But when the time was right here, he did find knight h3 move and managed to bring home the full point. Well, if you reach the semi-finals, then you have great chances of qualifying. But there is one more round here in between, and that is going to be Arjun's big challenge, which is to beat the Chinese super GM Wei. But for that, Arjun will get 1 day of rest, and he'll be back with all his energy. For now, this is Sagar Shah signing off. Bye bye.